Good morning, my little dirt squirrels. Today, we're going to be shoveling my driveway and then making a GPS video. We got about a foot of snow last night. So we're going to take care of that, and then we're going to do GPS videos today and design, so stay tuned. Alright, I said screw shoveling. I drove my truck in and out a million times and just mashed the foot of snow down and wiped my truck off. So now we're going to go inside and we're going to look at some designs and show you how to ride them out with a dozer. Okay, we are back inside. Now, I had a few questions recently on GPS and how to relate an actual field design like you see there and transfer it over to the GPS so you know where you fall within the design and things like that. So today we're going to do that breakdown, do the design part of it, what you're looking at in the design, and how to ride that design out when you're running the GPS to make sure you're doing it correctly, because you'll have a lot of offsets that you'll have to set for parking lots and curbing and green spaces and all these things. And those are all things that are very important when you're finish grading or subgrading a site, to have things precise and exactly where you want them. So today that's what we're going to cover. We'll go over all that. Stay tuned and we'll get into that. Okay, so the first topic I want to talk to you guys about today is riding out the design with a dozer, excavator, or any machine that you will be excavating with. So here we have a development. There's about 26 different condos going in here, and you can see we have a road coming in, coming down around, and making a loop. And off of this, we have little side roads with small parking lots that are going into every single unit dwelling. 26 units in total. In between here, we have retention ponds to control all the flow and all the stormwater structures on this site. You can see we have plans down here for all our water hydrants and our topo grades. So I basically pulled the topo pages out of the design. So now we're actually looking at the design. Well, we're looking at retention ponds. We're looking at lots of aquatic bench areas where they'll have bio sands and special mixes. And then we'll have a lot of other areas where it's just going to be plain topsoils. And then in here will be all crusher runs. So one of the things I want to go over is following these contours directly. You can see here, there's going to be down here is a curb, up here is a wing edge. So there's going to be a wing edge that runs down through here and then turns into a curb eventually down here. So if you're running a dozer, most guys would just go down through, grade this roadway. And that's exactly what you should do. But when you're following these contours, you want to follow these lines precisely within the 1/10 of an inch. And you want to select the blade tip edge closest to that contour or to the side that you're trying to, keep grade on. So, for example, like if you're doing, let's say, this curb line right here, well, you're going to run your left blade tip if your dozer's traveling in this direction this way. You would select your left blade tip and you would follow that center line all the way down through. Do not cross over that center line, because then you will get drop in a blade and you will be getting loss of material and that will need to be filled in later. So you're going to keep your blade tip on that edge or that center line as tight as you can with the left blade tip selected. Now, flip side, you're going to come over and you're going to grade the right side of this roadway along the curb. Well, then you would select your right blade tip and you would run that edge line as precisely as you can. Now, that's pretty cut and dry. Those big flat surfaces, It becomes a lot more complex when you get into a retention pond like this, where we're looking at 162 at the top of the slope running all the way around up to 167 up here where these dwellings are. It's dropping down all the way to 154 at the center of this pond. It's all getting biosand mix. So we would have to cut that deeper for biosand. But for example, we'll just show you. If I was to cut this with a dozer, I would initially cut grade this way or this way with the dozer, depending on where my cuts and fills are, and hog it out initially sideways, running horizontally to all of your lines, okay? That's just to get rough grade. I would do it like this. Then it doesn't really matter what blade tips you select or anything in that process. Then I would go ahead, once I get within probably 2 or 3/10 of my finish grade that I'm looking for, I'll select my blade tip and I'll work from the bottom of the pond, only this edge right here. I'll work that bottom out to grade. And then I will step up and I will angle my blade and I will work that top out to grade, following these lines perfectly. Then you'd come around and you'd have to push these ends out, and then you could work your way around and ride these all out perfectly. A lot of the times, though, retention ponds, especially on these deep sweep corners, they get so tight that the dozer actually can't maneuver them. So in that case, I would work this whole edge and just work it out, work it out, work it out. And then once you get a nice edge established, get over here and carry the grade back out along these lines. The key is to follow these lines as perfectly as you possibly can, because it's precise with those contours is what your blade GPS codes are reading off of. So essentially, if your left blade tip is selected and you're following the lowest contour here and traveling in that direction, you essentially can't really over dig or dig out any excessive material until you get to this corner. So as long as you're riding these lines perfectly and you have your offsets correct, GPS can be an extreme efficiency tool. So that's the first topic I wanted to show you, is following lines directly and working them as quick as you can around these straights. And then the corners, take your time and work them out, correctly. And so that's the first topic I really wanted to go over today. And we'll break this down a little more. Like when you get into a roadway, there'll be offsets that you have to select. When you get out into a green space, there'll be different offsets that you'll have to select. You oftentimes have to refer to these plans that we're looking at to get these correct. So you go in, you look at the plans. A lot of times, like a green space like this is going to show it needs 4 inches of topsoil. So you're going to cut your subgrade to minus 133. And that'll give you a perfect 4 inches to go over top with for your topsoil. But then if you come over here to the driveway, well, now most commercial projects like this call for 12 inches of crusher run with Marafi 460 fabric, and then 4 inches of binder and state top, blacktop over top of that. So you're talking 16 inches. So in these driveways, you would cut your grade down to minus 133. Same thing with over in these parking lots. Same thing with the roadway coming out, unless it's a DOT spec area. So from this line here, that's our DOT line. From that line out, we would call for 24 inches of base, and then usually maybe 6 inches of binder and blacktop. So that's just for commercial access and DOT. But a lot of the times you just go back in, you refer to your plans, and then you can get whatever number you need and just punch it into your GPS, and that's how you come up with them numbers. Sometimes you'll run into a situation like this retention pond right here. Now this pond, I would probably dig with an excavator. It's really, really steep slope. It's really tight cornered, and there's a culvert coming out of it running to across the property over here to a little storm area. So essentially, this pond right here is what they consider a bioretention pond. And that bioretention pond is going to have to get dug out an additional 36 inches along the bottom perimeter where all those little black dots are. And that will get backfilled with a mixed biosand and then finish graded with topsoil. So things like that are what you have to look out for, because that's how you lose profits quickly on sites. When you miss something like that, you fill it in, you get out of there. Now all of a sudden you have to send 6 guys back over there to redo that work. It will take a company out of business quicker than anything. So keep those things in mind. It's very important that you always refer to these plans when doing GPS. And then we're going to break down later how to get into GPS, how to write them out, what travel speeds we're going at, how to adjust from medium to fine grade in certain situations, whether you're doing subgrade or finished grade. There's so much to it. I'll show you how to do tenths to inches, and refer to these plans and make sure you don't grade anything over an area where you'll be doing maybe a hydrant later. So let's say we're going to put this hydrant in next week and we're going to finish grade all this area and we're going to topsoil this whole area. Well, if you don't know that this is going to be excavated in a week, you don't want to impede on this area and waste any profit. So it's extremely important to always refer to these plans just to know your progress and where you're at on site, and to make sure double, triple check that you're not going to, mess anything up as simple as a topsoil job or a bioretention pond. So stay tuned. We'll go over a little more. We'll go take a break and we'll come right back. Okay, we are back, and I wanted to break down a little more for you guys and, let the fact be known that the GPS is always designed for your finish grade in the design in your dozer. So it's always set up for finish grade no matter what, okay? So that means that over here, you can't just go down through there and put it at 0 grade and finish grade this. In this area here, this driveway, you would have to go down through. What I would do is I'd bring up my whole shoulder on both sides up to subgrade 0 or -3 actually for topsoil. And then you'd get down in the roadway and you'd box it out to -133, 16 inches for 4 inches of blacktop and 12 inches of crusher run. So it's important that you always know the offset that you have to program in, and in your design, it's always going to show in inches. And I don't have, or maybe I do, I don't have the breakdown sheet for this with me right here, but the breakdown sheet for this would show a breakdown of subgrade would be brought up to -16 inches, and then it would say 12 inches of 3/4 minus crusher run, and then it would say Marafi 460 fabric, road fabric, and then it would also say it's to be topped with blacktop. So I would add those all together, and it would be 16 inches, and that in my GPS as a subgrade, a cut is -1.33. So that's important. Sometimes you'll find a driveway that calls for 5 inches, so it'll be the 1.41, but that's rare. Usually it's standard 133. Every once in a while, 141. The same thing would go for over in these parking areas here around all these building dwellings. A lot of the times you'll see a building dwelling like this, and then all of a sudden there's a curb area here. Well, a dozer operator will come down through, box this out, and he won't recognize what this is if he's not really established himself with GPS yet. And he'll come down through here, grading, and all of a sudden his blade will just hop. And he'll what? Whoa, what's going on? What's going on? Well, that's what I was saying. It's not just as simple as pushing the button. So in theory, you'd come down, you'd box this whole parking lot out minus 133 everywhere. And then over here, you'd take some of your cuttings that you boxed out of here and you'd grade it up at minus 13 or minus 33 up for these green space areas. So you'd take your spoils, minus 33, minus 33 in all the green space areas, minus 33, minus 33, minus 33. So now all your green space areas are brought up to grade. Then I would also, if I was doing this building area here, and we have cut these parking lots, and it's a proctored material that you can put under these buildings as a base material for the foundation. Well, a lot of times you can come right in here, cut this whole thing out 133. If there's a fill over here, you can fill this whole edge in over here 133. So you have your 4 inches for your concrete, or 5, 6 inches, whatever it calls for, and then your foot of crusher underneath. So it's pretty simple once you start going around, but it's important that you get all your offsets and your math correct on all these, because if you're doing this roadway and you're 1/10 or 2/10 off, well, you're talking, in this amount of length, a good half mile, you're talking, 50 to 80 grand of material just in one little math problem. So that's really important, and we'll come back and we'll break down a little bit more. Okay, so I probably scare some of you guys with the plans, because I know a lot of the newer operators and even some of the seasoned guys don't really look at plans. It's more of a superintendent thing. So a lot of you guys are probably going to be relying on your foreman or your superintendent to come up with these math numbers, but I just wanted to go over them so you guys really knew what was going on. So anyways, we're going to get over into this little complex area over here. This is an area that would really get a lot of guys' panties in a bunch. So here we have the road crossing over. We have a giant step down in the bank of a 3-on-1 going over top of a 48-inch HDPE that's about 330 feet long. This is a slope that's 3-on-1, like I said, 33%, and it's approximately 60 feet in length at 3-on-1. So that's a big old hill that comes over a steep grade that a culvert runs through, okay? There's a shoulder that runs out and comes out to a retention pond that drops with a little sediment or a little canal stone swale area, a little check dam, and then it drops into a lower retention pond. And then it's got a crossing that crosses under the road into another retention pond. And then from that retention ponds, it steps up to a big flat area where they put picnic tables. Now in here, you got your main road, your 2-lane road. You got your curb edges, and then you got your side slopes on both sides. Now this culvert will be in there while you guys would be grading this out. So here you'd work uphill with your GPS, away from that culvert. You'd get your grade established on this bottom corner, so then you could cross over that corner, probably on an angle, leave it high, and then cross it across so you don't lose any material down here. But you wouldn't just take material from up here and just blow it across at grade, because it would just end up right in front of your culvert. So this whole area here, I'll show you how I would work it with GPS. So we got the culvert. The first thing I do, have the trucks dump up here, get the material down here, work it uphill, work it uphill, work it uphill, work it uphill. Get as close 3/10 high, 2/10 high, all up through here. Then I'd start, keep the trucks dumping and keep running the material down. And then as I bring material down, I bring 2 blades down and I bring 2 blades over top the culvert. So you don't lose any material down here. Angle your blade uphill, run it across, run it across, run it across. Always at -3.3 because except when I initially grade out this area, I keep this a little high so when I come back I can cut across. I have a little material in here to fill. Because this I haven't touched yet. You're going to lose a little bit in there. So, like I said, material comes down, goes up. Now you're working it over. Now I'd get across this culvert and then I'd work it all up through here, have the truck start dumping up here. You can come down, work around here. These little complex areas here, do them with the excavator. This little area you probably could hog out with the dozer, shape these edges up. You'd ride these contours out precisely all around here at -3.3 for 4 inches of topsoil. I would box this pond out and I'd blow right through that berm. And I'd take all the extra material I had and I'd come right across this and then I'd bring it up this bank. I would put in this run later. I wouldn't, now that the road's already in, this is all established, then it would be a different story. But the road's only like here, so I would cut this out, take that extra material, bring it up here, dress it all up, and then later on I just have this little spot open and then we could just box right through to the other side and then finish all that. So that would be that, and then we could shape all that up in there with the excavator. And then I would step over to do the same thing on the other side, trucks dump up top, work your material down, get your flat landing area on this big side slope, then cross over the culvert, very, very limited amount of material at a time with your blade facing uphill. Bring it all across, and then I would take all my excessive material. If I had any extra, I'd work this whole corner here around that whole slope. And that's the point I'd get up here, get this top done, and then focus on finishing that small area there with the excavator. That's really all it is following everything out. And as long as everything's rolled out correctly, you can't really go wrong. It's not just hitting the button, there's a lot to it. And a lot of times, like if this was a cut, let's just say this is a cut and we're just shaping all this out, okay, instead of fill. I've given you the fill definition of what I do. If this was a cut, I would do the exact opposite of what I just told you. I would start over here. I would cut all these ponds right out, blow that berm right out, carve it all completely out. I'd work right across this hill with all that material, make sure I don't spill any in front of the culvert, get it all down here, and then my loadout pile would be right here on each corner. So the trucks literally could just boom, back in, get loaded out. An excavator would be sitting there. It'd literally be a quartered swing to load the truck right there. Same thing on this side, a quarter swing, and they're loaded. So over here, same thing. Box this out, flat top that, shape that whole side, and work that material all across there. If, let's say it's a 4-foot cut over here, well, then you're going to just work your GPS down. You don't set it right at 0 grade. Your blade's going to do what? It's just going to dig right into the ground. So over here, I'd find out what my existing grade is. And let's say it's 393. So I'm going to set my grade for 390, and I'm going to shave off 3 to 4 inches. And over here, it probably won't be the same grade. So over here, I'm going to shave off 3 to 4 inches. Over here, I might shave off 6 inches, or I might lose a little over here. So then I'd step it down a little more. I'd go to, 381 and then run it down, and then 371, and then so on, and just keep working your way down through a tenth or two at a time until you get a nice run. And then always make sure your run has a nice ramp up on your material. You want an easy transition so you can go as fast as you can. So you're going to come down through here. Once you get a nice grade established, you can start picking up speed and dropping, more tenths usually. Like I might start out in just first gear and just work this for a little ways. And then once I get a flat plane where it's not going to be a really rough ride, I'll kick it up into third gear and I'll just start clapping down through there as quick as it'll go. And it's not going to affect your GPS. I usually will run it in medium mode when I'm going that quick, because fine mode, it just has too much. It's just too agile. I'm moving too fast, so it's thinking too much, and the blade hops too much. So a lot of times I'll keep getting a nice area. And once I have a nice grade established that's perfect to my subgrade, so my subgrade's at 0, I got a 393 grade. It's perfect 393 the whole way. Well, then I'll kick it right up and I'll jump it down to like 360 and take out like 6 or 8 inches or 10 inches at a time and run it over. So that's something to keep in mind, is always bumping down your offsets in slow transitions, but efficient transitions. You don't want to just be taking a tenth of material down and just finish grading the whole time. If you have a huge cut, you want to be taking giant bladefuls up here. So you just set your GPS. Sometimes when if it's the right material and I can adjust my blade for a 10-inch cut and just drive and it won't slow me down, I'll do that. I will literally set my GPS to minus 8.3 and just run it right down through there. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll get into a little bit more. I think I covered quite a bit for today. Stay tuned, and we'll come back with another episode soon, and we'll get into more of these prints and what you're looking at. Right now, we just basically went over the gist, what we're looking at here, what retention ponds, curb lines, roads look like, dwellings, things like that. But these all have actual breakdowns, like over here, right there, for example. I'll move this back. It shows a proposed crosswalk and a proposed detected warning area. So in here, we're going to have a concrete crosswalk going across there with handicap identifiers on both sides. And then we'll also have, no, that's it actually. There's no yield or stop. So yeah, we'll have the detectables on each end and then a concrete crosswalk. So when we're doing our subgrade, here would actually be for 4 inches, right? All down through here will be a 4-inch cut for your blacktop. But over here, you're going to have a 6-inch sidewalk. So that area would have to get boxed out an additional 2/10 right in there. So those are little things that to keep in mind when you're on site, just to keep progress moving. If you finish this road and you had to come back and box out that little crosswalk later, well, now you're losing money. So there's just another example. So anyways, I went over enough for today, and we'll come back to this another time with some new plans and new pages, and we'll go over some more stuff. And then in the very close future, I'm actually going to make a video on this job, building these 2 retention ponds, and as well as this one right here that's kind of showing off the map right now. So that's also going to be in a future episode. Right in here, we'll show that. So you guys have a great weekend and enjoy.